safety footwear, and how do we test the toe cap to make sure it's compliant with the Australian standards? So there's a couple of things we need to do to make sure that our work boots are compliant with the Australian standards. Now, the toe cap is, of course, the protective cap under here. Now, it's usually made out of steel or a composite toe cap. Composite's a little bit lighter and it will be a little bit cooler across the workday, which is a big deal if you're walking, 10 to 15 Ks a day on the work site. So the tests that we do on this, there's usually two tests that we do to make sure they're compliant with the Australian standards. There's an impact test where we drop a weight on the front of the boot, and there's a compression test where we compress the boot in like a hydraulic press to make sure it maintains the minimum clearance. Now, they're really quite specific on what we need to achieve with these. So the first thing we need to maintain is a 14mm clearance after the tests, and then the toe cap needs to also be 39mm in length. So basically the impact test is we drop a 200 newton, so if you can imagine a 20 kilo weight, like one of the big discs at the gym, dropped from 1 meter on the front of the work boot, that will be the impact test. So this simulates dropping heavy tools, bricks, something like that on the front of your toe. So it's a really applicable test to the function of the protective cap. So a 20 kilo weight dropped at 1 meter onto the front of the work boot. Now it's really quite a concentrated force too as well. It's, if you imagine something like almost like an axe head, but it's really quite pointed from both sides, dropping on the front of the boot. The other test we do is the compression test. Now this is a 1.5 ton force being applied to the front of the boot. We still need to maintain a minimum spacings under the cap. So this would simulate being backed over by a work cube or one of the forklifts, or just some other sort of vehicle that would compress it more slowly than the impact test. So they're two really applicable tests to see how well the toe cap functions in protecting your feet. The reason why these ones they're probably the most known, because that's the toe cap really defines the protective footwear space, or the safety footwear space rather, because it's to be safety footwear, we need to actually have the protective cap in the boots. So if you're looking to protect your workers at work, get over and have a look at an Australian standards work boot. Now you can usually tell that it's an Australian standards work boot it'll have the little Australian standards little thing here just inside on the tongue, and you'll be able to see all the standards testing there. So if you want to protect your workers or protect your own feet, get over to ergonics.com.au and check out our Australian standards podiatrist design arch support work boots.